Hi, Dad. Welcome back to another episode of Dave and Andy's Honest About Life. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, buddy. Thank you for asking. And it's just another hot day here in Minnesota.
I heard. I heard. So we
And
have a special guest with us today.
yeah, super special guest, a guy that I worked with for years, and he's just a wonderful guy. And I thought that he'd be a great mix for what we talk about, Andy. Honest about life. And Crisco has had a lot of life. He's a living legend, and I love to kind of pick his brain. So everybody, we've got Crisco from Crisco Des and Ryan on KS95, and Crisco, we're very fortunate to have you join us, and just happy to get some of your insights on things. And I'm going to have Andy, as he always does, he picks my brain, so I'm going to have him ask the questions here.
Welcome, Crisco. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah.
So what I have a chance to do with my dad is ask him about life experiences, about his perspective on things, his position on topics of today and topics of the past. And quite honest, it leads us to some really honest places and some revealing places that that it's just wonderful to be able to talk about and to have conversations. So, Chris, we're going to ask you some of the same kinds of things. I know that you are beloved by so many in the Twin Cities. You truly are, and it is an honor.
5 or 6
million.
And I think one of the reasons people love you so much is because you are honest. You're honest. You're not afraid to talk about the things that matter most to you. You're not afraid to talk about some maybe some painful chapters in your life. And we're going to ask you a little bit about that today. I think one of those chapters, one of them is your father. Another might be some of your challenges with weight loss, dieting. If you don't mind, if you would, you lost your dad a little while back. If you don't mind, this kind of thing that I'm doing with Dad today, would this be something you would have done with your dad?
Yeah, I'll tell you, my dad would probably look back on his life and go, "You son of a b! You could have got me in voice acting. You did radio." He always talked about it. He'd always do that thing that dads would do. He'd be like, "I don't know. I mean, do you think I'd be good at that?" And the truth was, he would have been great at it. And he had so many just goofy voices, and it's those memories that I think so just to give a little backstory. So I lost my dad 8 years ago to pancreatic cancer, and he went through the battle of all battles, and to the point where even 3.5 years into his battle, I sat on the edge of his bed with him and I said, "Man, I watched you go through the ringer for your family. Like, the things you're doing for us. It's not when somebody's battling cancer, they're battling for a reason. And his reason was us." And I said, I want your honest answer. Like, honest about life. You guys just said it. Would you do this again? And he said, honestly, no. And it's not a matter of not caring about the people, not caring about the situation. That shows you what people go through. So he went through a ton of that, but there's 2 different ways people go when you lose somebody, or if you find out a diagnosis of cancer. It's we were told this by the doctor, and it was kind of the whole philosophy. It's like a fight or flight. You are either going to jump in, all hands on deck, be there for them, help them out, bring them to different treatments, bring them to things to make them feel better, or you're going to run. And unfortunately, I can't relate to that side because I didn't run. I went all in, but doing something like this, like you are with your dad, is amazing. We went on so many adventures. We'd take day trips. He had never been to a steakhouse in Minneapolis, and I said, we grew up on Cub steaks, and there was nothing wrong with that. It was a delightful cut for the Zalewski crew. But we brought him to a couple steakhouses in Minneapolis, and I mean, mind blown. So I wish we could have done so much more, because 8 years ago I was 31, and nobody should lose their dad in their 30s. Nobody should lose their dad, until you're both ready to just take a siesta and be done. But it's hard at 31 to nobody gives you the keys on how to run life. You know what I mean? You just have to pick up the ball and run with it. So to not have one of your biggest supporters there by your side, it's tough. So I think this is awesome what you guys are doing.
You are so. I just remember those few years before your father passed, how you'd spend time with him, and just it was amazing the things that you did. Just amazing.
it was pretty awesome. Even like the thing is, like I said, I can't understand the idea of going the flight risk. Like, I'm running, I can't be there for you. I just don't get, that was just not in my DNA. But I think back to how many more memories we had. Like, I had a childhood full of memories, whether it was him spanking me on the bottom or whether it was all positive and all love and everything else like that, developing me into the person that I am today. Which I don't know if that's what he wanted to sign off on. I don't know if he'd be proud of that, but I'm just kidding. But he, I think back to like even radiation. I brought him to radiation every day for 30 straight days. We would go I would be done with work. I would run out of the building. I would, drive 40 minutes to go get him, do a whole thing. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, because we had so many more memories and so many more amazing times just sitting there talking. Because guess what? If I didn't bring him to radiation, my mom had a full-time job. Who was going to bring him? It was just going to, I mean, could you imagine having to go to radiation alone? And people do it every day. And so I just know what that meant to him and what it meant to me to have those memories, to know that he didn't have to do anything alone.
You're a superhero son, buddy.
Yeah, well, he was the superhero. I mean, I can't imagine being pinned down to a table with a plastic mask on your face, just covering it and going, okay, sit here for 40 minutes. So yeah, he was the superhero. He just, there's no way I would have done it any other way. So
stuff people can't yank out of your heart until, your last days. You're going to have all those memories. And that's why Andy and I started this. It's just amazing. All those memories that you don't even delve back in the back of your mind to dig them out. But boy, when you do, there's tons of them there. And that's awesome. And that's why we love to talk about them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Crisco, I think you didn't have any siblings when you said it was just you and your mom that could have cared for your dad.
No, my brother and my sister were there as well, Josh and Jesse. I have one brother, one sister, and they were both there equally as much. I just, with the radiation stuff, I was able to do that, and I stepped up in any way I could. But they all killed it when it came to helping them out. So
that's wonderful. Obviously, you loved your dad dearly, and he was grateful for all the support that you gave him. It's something to hear, as you often do, that at some point they decide, I've had enough. Or I don't want to feel terrible anymore. I don't want to be a burden anymore. Whatever the reason, you hear that, from patients like that. And it sounds like you found that out from your own dad, that he'd had enough after 3.5 years, you said, of really pushing hard.
Yeah, cancer is a scary thing in general, but when you start getting, he had not to go into a million different details, but he had a procedure called the Whipple. And that's what you have to have for pancreatic cancer. They take out part of your pancreas and part of it's a mess. Like it's not very common. People make it, through that, if not with major complications. And the scariest part was they put him under in that moment, and they said, okay, so we'll let you know if he can have the procedure or if that's pretty much it. So you just sit there for hours, and he was just a trooper with all of it. So, it's different hearing, if you could go back in time 3.5 years from now and do this, would you, to somebody who went through it? Because as a person who went through it on the sidelines, it was exhausting and it was heartbreaking and it was sad. It would be amazing. So I can't believe, to hear that from the person, straight from the person's mouth, like, oh God, I love you guys, but I don't know.
When he was diagnosed, was it sort of an honest moment for him and you and family? Because pancreatic, I hear, like, to your point, is a tough one. When it comes to cancer, when you hear that word, you're thinking, holy smokes, I have 18 to 36 months. Maybe it's less than that. I don't know. But was that a really honest moment where he said, I know what this means for me?
Yeah, I think when you go into it, you're almost numb to it, because nobody's expecting to hear that word. Everybody in a roundabout way, whether it's directly, it's your dad, it's your mom, it's you, it's somebody else. Everybody has cancer in their life. Somebody has been diagnosed with it, or somebody's going through it currently. And, it was just one of those moments where I think he thought he could beat it. And the way he did it, he was such a positive person. Pancreatic cancer is if anybody's gone through it or anybody has it, much like a lot of these cancers, it's a death wish. I mean, it's or not death wish, but death sentence.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you pretty much, you're right, 18 months, 12. I mean, I know people who have passed away in 4 months and they were given 6. So the fact that he did 3.5 years and he just fought and he fought and he fought was amazing. But that's who he was. He went into it, and instead of having the attitude of, well, boy, I don't know. They didn't give him a timetable. He goes, no, we're going to live life. We're going to have fun. He had a grandson who at the time, I mean, geez, what was that? 11 years? He was 7. And I'll tell you right now, nobody in my nephew Roman's life helped define the character of who he was more than my dad. My dad loved that kid. Roman, my nephew, idolized my dad, and everything he instilled in us. And here I go. I told you I'm going to cry. I'm always a crier. Everything he instilled in us, he instilled in Roman. And Roman's 18 years old, and the kid's got the freaking, chance to be even more amazing than he already is. I mean, he just graduated high school, and the heart that kid has, and the love for people, and his ability to just be amazing every day. All the coolest part about it is I just see my dad. I just see my dad channel right through him, and just like you see your dad, Dave, channeling through your kids. It's just when you have a good one, you got to count your stars and be happy, because not everybody has that experience either.
Very, very well said, Crisco. That is just amazing. The tribute you're giving your father here, and I'm sure he was so proud of you. Yeah.
It's true. And you think about the big heart, Crisco, and I've known you. I've had the pleasure of hanging out with you back in Minnesota. Haven't had a chance to do that since we moved out here to Virginia. And I do miss those days, because you do have a big heart and you're genuine. And I assume what you're telling me is that a lot of that came from your dad, from your parents. And I bet your sister and your brother have it. It sounds like your Roman does, which sounds like that's your dad's nephew. So there's something about that, right? There's something about a big heart that I don't think you can fake it, because it's a very authentic, very genuine way to be. Do you follow me what I'm saying? It's not the easiest thing to do. It's exhausting, I think. And what you do can be exhausting, because you're an entertainer. You're someone who shows a lot of care. You have a lot of people, I imagine, come up to you and say, Crisco, I want to know you. I want you to know me. And you're like, gosh, there's only so much time in a day, but you find a way. And I'm not just pumping up your tires, but that is truly my experience with you.
Keep going.
Truly my experience.
Keep it up.
Something special about that. Anyway.
And the thing is a lot of people do think it is a lot of work, and it can be, but at the end of the day, I'm so lucky. I get to literally joke around and talk and do silly, crazy, dumb things and get paid for it. There are a lot of people in my childhood, and a lot of people who I was taught by, who strongly thought that I wasn't going to be anything. And and that's fine. I was a terrible student. I was ADD. I mean, right now, if I see a squirrel over there, I'm going to look. But it's it's just one of those things where I think it's different, because my dad and my mom, I mean, my mom was always working, she was the one providing for the stuff, and my dad worked too, but it was just kind of instilled in me, like, don't ever take anything for granted. Don't ever, that's the one thing I didn't want to do. And that's what my dad taught me more than anything, is don't do something you don't enjoy, because then it's work. And if it's something you love, it's not work. And so I don't care if it's 12:30 at night and somebody comes up and says hello. I don't care if it's 2:30 in the morning and I'm getting free breakfast at the Holiday Inn. It's one of those things that when it's gone, I'm sure a whole lot of people are going to miss that. You know what I mean? When all of a sudden you're sitting at a bar table and you're like, nope, you thought it was Chris? Nope, not Chris. Not me. Got it. You know what I mean? Then you're going to miss it. I could never get sick of hey, I've listened to you for 20 years, or hey, I've listened to you for 10 years, or and the day I react sharply, or the day that I'd be like, oh God, just give me a minute, I need a minute, then I'm in the wrong thing. You know what I mean? I love interacting with people, but I got that from my dad too. Not that this is just a 24/7 dad podcast, but it's it's one of those things. I got it from him because he just I've never seen a person go through. I mean, he had 2 artificial hips. He had he blew his leg off with a handgun or a shotgun. I don't remember what it was. So he had 1 artificial leg. He had, and every day I could go through a laundry list. I've been to every hospital in the state of Minnesota just to see my dad at some point or another. And he always was happy. I mean, it was probably partially the weed, but he was mostly always happy. You know what I mean? Like, it was, I think the weed definitely helped, but he you know, at the end of the day, if he can be happy and he can go through life and not complain, boy, I am a big baby if I'm sitting here getting upset because somebody wants to say hello to me.
Yeah, well, he is a special person, and you've said a lot right there about, you know, finding that thing that really gets you up in the morning and that doesn't feel like work, and who keeps a positive attitude. Crisco, we could go on and on. There's so much more I want to ask you, but I know that you don't have much more time, and we really wanted to respect the time that you've given us and respect your generosity. So maybe you'd be willing to do this with us again, because there's so much more I'd love to know. So much more that you have to share. So, you know, until that opportunity, Dad, I don't want to be the one to sign off with Crisco. Is there anything else?
Yeah, no, Crisco, you know how much I love you.
Oh, love you, buddy.
You've been an amazing friend to me. You've stuck up for me even when nobody should. And I really appreciate all the help that you've given me. And you're a heck of a lot younger than I am. And yet you have so much wisdom that it's fun to listen to you express all that. And yeah, it's a blessing. It's a blessing. The Twin Cities is blessed to have you.
Hey, I also got to be under the wing of a pretty awesome guy who's on this podcast as well, and it's not Andy. Sorry, Andy, no offense. But I mean, you did it for 40 plus years and did it with a smile on your face, and you can go through a lot of people in this business and find out bad things about them, or find out how awful they were, or maybe they aren't the person you thought they were. And that's not Dave Dahl. Dave Dahl is the nicest human being I've ever met in this profession. So thank you for being my friend.
I love you. And as you said, if you can do something you love, it's not work. And I love it.
And you know me, I'm lazy. Anything I can do to not consider it work, it's done for me.
That's just too much, Crisco. I love you, man. We gotta sign off, but I'm gonna let Andy sign off in his normal way.
Well, again, Crisco, thank you for coming on with Dad and I and being honest about life and sharing with us some what could be very emotional, but certainly memorable, meaningful things in your life. So thank you forever for doing that with us today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Bye, Crisco. Bye, Andy. Love you guys.
Love you.
Then.